researcher and also policy maker from Israel, Dr. SCHUEFTAN. He is the director of the National Security Studies Center at the University of Haifa. He is also the director of International Graduate Program in National Security at the same university, and a visiting professor at the Department of Government at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And besides that, he is a lecturer at Israeli Defense Force National College, and for several years, decades, he is giving consultancy to Prime Minister Office, Foreign Ministry, Defense Ministry, IDF, and National Security Council. He has been also briefing the staff members and the Congress members in US. He has been lecturing in different universities across the world, and that consists of United States, Europe, East Asia, and many other parts of the world. Dr. SCHUEFTAN has also published extensively on Middle Eastern history, what we call West Asia here, with emphasis on Arab-Israel relations, inter-Arab politics, American policy in the Middle East. His book covered a wide variety of topics: Jordanian option, Israel, Jordan, and Palestinians, published in 1986. The other book is Attrition, Egypt, Post-War Political Strategy, 1989, Disengagement, Israel and the Palestinian Entity, 1999, and there are several other books that he has published. I am not mentioning all of them. So we are very happy that a person who is not just academic, but a policy maker and consulted by researcher as well as policy maker across the world is with us. So this center here is a center for advanced studies, where we have the researchers from across the world coming in the Spain and working on their research issues. We have only foreigners who come and stay here. There is no Indian who is entitled to come, and they bring their expertise into different domains and share with the academic community in JNU and outside. We also organize series of interaction like this, and as I introduced you, the JNU as the School of International Studies, which has different centers. Earlier we were part of the Center for West Asian and African Studies. From 1995 I joined that. I have been the chairperson of that combined center up to 2009 for 3 times. It's one of the most noisy centers because entire West Asian province used to be passed on to our centers. And ultimately we decided to leave those issues with some of our distinguished colleagues, and we parted company by setting up African Studies Center, where I am located now, much more peaceful region. So you have the colleagues from my former center as well as the new centers. And these are the doctoral researchers who work on different areas and that come as their interest in this topic. I won't take much time. I would like to welcome you first. Okay. And I also welcome my colleagues from the center, from IDS, colleagues from JNIAS, and colleagues from the West Asian Studies. Ambassador Vin Gupta is a visiting professor with us. He had been Indian ambassador to South Africa, and also he had a posting in Israel sometime long ago.
I will be Indian ambassador.
Oh, okay. So, and then we have a colleague who is from Russia. She is working for our research work in India. She has come, and then we have other researchers like Susmita and others from the university. I welcome all of you.
I'm introducing each one of you because we are live on the Facebook. So people to know who is what. So having warned you about the live coverage of your talk, may I request you now to give a talk for roughly around 1 hour, which can be followed by question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it. So that's
Okay.
yes. And do we have someone from outside?
Yes, the Anand Kumar sir.
There is one colleague from Institute for Different Studies and Analysis who is now based in Tanzania, and he wanted to attend this one, so he will be live on Skype with us. And there might be other people who will join live in the question and answer session, but they will
So let's wait for a minute.
even during call, we will start the calls will be connected.
Okay, can we start? Thank you. Well, first, thank you for the welcome and the wide variety of expertise around this table. I hope not only to teach something, but also to learn quite a lot from you. Let me focus on the changes that we've seen in recent years concerning West Asia. And by the way, I totally accept the English definition, the Indian definition of it, because Middle East, the question is middle from where, and east is east of London. So let's focus on this term of East Asia. And we've seen dramatic changes in the last decade, and they were on all levels. We've seen it on the global level, particularly with the United States and Europe. We've seen it in the regional level, dramatic, revolutionary changes in the region. But also I would note that we need to look at some domestic realities in the Middle East, because they will also affect very much the regional and sometimes even have implications beyond it. By far, the most important change that we've seen in the world is the going of Obama. And I'm not making a mistake in saying the coming of Trump, which is the going of Obama. Because what we've had in the United States for 16 years, and particularly in the last 8 years, was undermining dramatically the position of the United States in the world. And in that regard, has enormous implications throughout the world, including in West Asia. And I think the important thing to understand is that beyond the mistakes of Bush Jr., primarily his mistake in Iran and Afghanistan, we've seen 8 years of a president who actually changed dramatically the perception of American presidents concerning the position of the United States in the world. It is now being changed again by Trump, but it is very important to understand what happened, particularly in relations to the Middle East or to West Asia under Bush, and what even more dramatically changed under Obama. The American attempt to bring democracy to Iraq, and by the way, I'm not speaking about invading Iraq or bringing down Saddam Hussein or destroying the Ba'ath in Iraq. I'm speaking about this hallucination of bringing democracy to people who don't want it. I'm speaking about changing the fundamental values of people who don't want their values changed. And the Americans have very often this perception that since democracy is a good thing, and everybody says he wants democracy, let's bring them democracy, and then they will convince that democracy can work effectively, we will bring it. We are coming to Iraq because it is a danger, but we will bring them the benefit of democracy. And this, of course, failed. It could not have succeeded because in the Middle East there is no demand for democracy for reasons that I will explain later. In the Arab world, the whole idea of pluralism is rejected on a very fundamental level. Even before it comes to the level of political order, it starts with the family, with the society, and it is very typical of this region. So the whole idea of bringing democracy to Iraq was ludicrous. But regardless of how realistic the idea was, the impact of the United States staying in Iraq, and let me be very clear here, I'm not speaking about occupying Iraq or bringing Saddam Hussein to an end, his regime to an end. I'm speaking about the United States staying in Iraq for a very long period of time, with enormous costs, not only in human lives, but also in the economic cost. And the result was not only a total failure in terms of changing Iraq in the direction of a democratic reality, but also a reality where the American people is not willing to fight in the Middle East for whatever reason whatsoever, because the involvement in Iraq was a total failure and very costly. By the way, I think this is also true about Afghanistan. I don't know what the Americans are doing there. I wouldn't go there in the first place. If I were the President of the United States, I would leave immediately, regardless of what happens in Afghanistan, because the Americans cannot change the nature of this region. But then came something that was immeasurably more dangerous. And this is an American president who believes in weakness, who believes in a weak America. Let me start by saying something that should be obvious, but perhaps isn't. There are two options. Either we have an American-led world order, or we don't have world order. The only kind of order we can have is the one that the Americans will be the leaders of. Are there other countries that are emerging and are important? Yes, India more than others. But A, India cannot provide a world order. B, China. China cannot provide a world order. And two, China doesn't want to undermine basically the American world order because China wants to strengthen its forces, strengthen its position in the world. And in order to strengthen its position, it needs a world order, and at the moment the only ones who are capable of providing it are the Americans. And for that, you need an America that is willing to be strong, that is willing to project power, to project determination. And what we had with President Obama was the extreme opposite. If I want to use a very radical term about Obama, in the most negative things that I can possibly think of, I would say he was a European president. There is nothing more damaging to the United States than to have a president that has a European approach. If you look at the history of the 20th century, you can sum it up, at least the second part of it, by saying the Europeans completely mess up their situation, and then the Americans come to save them. This is what we had in the Second World War, this is what we had in the Third World War, also known as the Cold War. But Europe can be as irresponsible as the Europeans usually are. So irresponsible as to produce the Second World War and to almost lose the Third World War, as long as the Americans are there to save them from their irresponsibility. This is what the Americans have done in the 1940s. This is what the Americans have done during the Cold War, and particularly when Europe was debating this issue in the 1980s. This is what brought the Soviet Union down, the American involvement, the American assistance, against the best advice of European elites. And to have an American president with a European attitude to world order, basically saying, we will acquiesce in things getting out of control because we don't want to be the leaders of the world order the way it was shaped since the Second World War. This is what we had with Obama. And when you want the translation of this very general idea into practical reality, what the United States did is to support and encourage its enemies. If we can simply bring down the volume until we get him on the other side.
Yes, Anand. Welcome. Sorry, we're trying to contact you. Yes. Lecture is still on there.
Okay, thank you. If we want to translate this into reality, it is the United States systematically, under Obama, encouraging its worst enemies and undercutting its allies. Let me give you two examples. I recognize that Putin is a good strategist, and he won the chess game on the strategic level. But it was easy to win because nobody was sitting on the other side. There was no America that Putin had to compete with because America chose to be absent during the period where Obama was president. Look at the Middle East. The number one enemy of the United States in the Middle East is Iran. The Americans recognize it today. Who did the Americans strengthen? Iran. Who did they undermine? Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Jordan. So systematically, you go to other parts of the world, you go to the very serious concerns the Japanese have about the American policy, you would see systematically that what Obama did had the effect of encouraging America's worst enemies, knowing that they can count on America being inactive. To give you one interesting example, and for those of you who are interested in reading it and may not have seen it, we have a fascinating interview with Obama by Jeffrey Goldberg in The Atlantic, 76 pages long. It was at the end of the Obama period, and Obama speaks there about what he is proud of and what he is sorry for. And what he is proud of is this symbolic and tremendously important decision he made to draw a red line and saying if the Syrians use chemical weapons, the United States will have to take action, and then at the last moment saying we will not take action, and working with the Russians to deal with the chemical weapons of Syria after the Syrians have used chemical weapons, and by the way, since then have used them again and again. Chemical weapons, and now the question, will they use it in England, is a very important question. This was perceived around the world, correctly in my view, but even if you think incorrectly, the important thing here is the perception of saying the United States abdicated its position as the power that is trying to mold the world order. And he says that this decision, the worst I can possibly think of in his presidency, is the one that he is the most proud of. I think is a very good illustration of the policy that he had. We have a different American president now. He has very serious problems with personality, other things. He created a lot of damage in the United States because he polarized American society in a way that it was not polarized for a very long time. But when it comes to foreign policy, it is a completely different story. Trump may not have an organized strategy in his mind that thinks systematically about the world reality, but he has excellent strategic impulses, excellent strategic feelings, and he has an excellent strategic intuition. He knows what to do, because he basically comes and says, here I am, this is America, the rules of the game are those rules where America wins. And I am going to put America again in a position where it can lead the world. We have not seen yet if he is successful. We will have to wait and see. The jury is still out. On some issues, he at least stopped the bleeding. In other words, in certain parts of the world, people already know that if you are the enemy or the adversary of the United States, you should be very careful in what you do. And if you are the ally of the United States, you can be assured that America will stand with you. There is the beginning of it. We have not seen yet. We need to wait and have more definite proof. But the very fact that Obama is not there already has a very major impact, and in my view, a positive impact. Now, don't misunderstand me. I would love to have Obama as a friend, as a neighbor, but not as the President of the United States. The President of Luxembourg, okay, this is fine, but not the President of the United States, because if there is one country that is responsible for the fact that we all can live in freedom and not in subjugation, it is the United States. So there is a tremendous importance to this change. Second change happened in Europe. The Europeans, as they do in the last 100 years, are constantly behaving irresponsible towards themselves and towards others. But let me put things in a broader perspective. The greatest achievement of mankind in the second part of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century is Europe turning itself from a slaughterhouse to a peaceful continent. I have only enormous respect for the Europeans.